So good morning students. In the last class we had discussed about the TS section, TS of anther, their explanation, and we had also discussed the pollen grain. Okay, so that only we will continue here. Pollen grain. Okay, pollen grain, which is the first stage of male gametophyte. Okay. See here, what is pollen grain means? It is yellowish powdery mass. If you see one example, I will tell you. If you take hibiscus flower and you just squash it, you can see on your finger there will be yellow color powder is going to be sticked. What is that means? That is the pollen grain. So here the pollen grain is considered as the first stage of male gametophyte. What it is? This is the first stage of male gametophyte, and it measures about 25 to 50 micron in diameter. Okay, it has two wall layers. What are the wall layers? That is outermost layer, which is known as the exine, and the inner layer, which is known as the intine. Here you see how the exine layer will be there means, which is one of the hard layer present at the outer surface of the pollen grain, and it is their surface is hard and rough because there is a presence of outreaches or the outgrowths. You can see here. Okay, this layer or this wall layer, which is the outer layer, which is known as the exine. Here, the exine layer, which is the outer hard layer, which is having or on their surface is rough due to the presence of ridges or outgrowths. And one more thing about the exine layer, that at some region there, and one more very important thing, this pollen grain, it is composed of a biochemical, or this exine layer has a biochemical. That biochemical is known as the sporopollenin. What it is known as? That is the sporopollenin. Here I will write about the sporopollenin. This sporopollenin is present. It is one of the biochemical or a chemical substance which is present on what? In the exine layer. Okay, and this is highly resistant. This exine layer, due to the presence of sporopollenin. See here, due to the presence of a chemical substance that is known as the sporopollenin, the pollen grain, due to the presence of sporopollenin, exine is highly resistant. Exine is highly resistant to strong acids, high temperature, then strong bases or alkali. Okay, due to the presence of this sporopollenin, this pollen grain or this exine layer is highly resistant to what? Strong acids, high temperature, and strong bases. They will resist them. Okay, so that's why due to the presence of sporopollenin, exine is considered as the protective layer because it is going to protect from all the higher temperature, strong acids which can destroy, which can damage the pollen grain. So who is protecting them? That is the chemical substance which is known as the sporopollenin. So here at some region of exile, there will be an absence of sporopollenin. Here at some region there will be absence of sporopollenin, and it is going to form a very thin or a pore-like structure that is known as the germ pore. Okay, what it is known as? This is known as the germ pore. From this germ pore, pollen tube emerges during pollination. During pollination, what happens? From this germ pore, a tube is going to form. Here I will show you how. For example, this is the exine layer and this is the germ pore. From this pore, a tube is going to be emerged. Okay, during what time? That is during the pollination. Okay, before that, here there will be absence of sporopollenin and it forms a very thin layer or in the form of pore that is known as the germ pore. Okay, the next here, this based on the number of germ pores, here the different pollen grains will be there. In some of the plants or in some of the pollen grains, see here, in some of the pollen grains are based on the number of germ pores, the pollen grains are divided into various types, such as monocolpate. Monocolpate means where there is presence of only one germ pore. If in a pollen grain only one germ pore is there, it is known as the monocolpate pollen grain. Example is monocots. Okay, second one, on the basis of number of germ pore, if the germ pore will be 2 in number, then it is known as the dicolpate. What it is? Dicolpate. Sorry, di or bicolpate. In which plants or in which what you call in most of the dicot plants, you will find the bicolpate type of germ pores. Then again tricolpate. Tricolpate. If the germ pore number is 3, then it is known as the tricolpate. These both are found in majority of dicot plants. Okay, so this is about the germ pore. The next here, after this, an inner wall layer will be there, whose surface is smooth, it's not rough, and that inner wall layer is known as the intine. What it is known as? It is known as the intine, which is the innermost layer, which is smooth, okay, which is enclosing the inner cytoplasm. And here the inner layer, as I told you, these are having an enzymatic plates of proteins. Or the chemical substances. What are the chemical substances which are present in the intines? That is cellulose and pectin. What is present over here? That is the cellulose and pectin. Okay. The next here, the pollen grains divide inside the cytoplasm. Okay, so this single pollen grain, see, when first of all the pollen grains are going to mature inside the anther. Okay, when the pollen grain matures, inside that pollen grain the cell is going to divide. So let's see how the division is going to take place. Before that, here in the pollen grains, there will be presence of cytoplasm. What is present? That is the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm is enclosed or enveloped into a plasma membrane. This is the cytoplasm, and this is the plasma membrane. Okay, the next here, first of all, I told you pollen grain is the first stage of male gametophyte. Here, in this pollen grain, the cell is going to divide. When the cell is going to divide means when a pollen grain matures. When the pollen grain is going to mature means when anther is going to mature. You know that in this anther, if this anther gets matured, this will get bigger size. Okay, the wall of this anther is going to disrupt. Then they will start. If this gets disrupt, then they will start to release the pollen grain. These pollen grains are formed from the sporogenous tissue. The sporogenous tissue, first you had studied in the previous section of anther, the innermost in the center region of pollen sacs, there will be presence of sporogenous tissue. This sporogenous tissue will give rise to pollen mother cell. This pollen mother cell will divide by a meiotic division and it will give rise to the pollen grain. So this pollen grain, when it gets matured, after attaining maturity only, the pollen grains are going to released out for the pollination. So these pollen grains will divide. Okay, it will divide. Inside these pollen grains only, there is a formation of two cells. How many cells? This is the pollen grain and this is the nucleus of a pollen grain. This nucleus will start dividing. In the cell pollen grain itself, two nucleus are going to divide. Okay, these two nucleus will form two cells inside the pollen grain. Okay, so what are the two cells over here? So one is the generative cell and another is the vegetative cell. Okay, so how it will be present means here the vegetative cell, it will be okay, this is the vegetative cell. This vegetative cell is the bigger cell and has an irregular nucleus. How this vegetative and generative cells are going to develop means inside this pollen grain, whatever the nucleus will be there, this nucleus will undergo into a division because the nucleus will have the genetic material, that is the DNA. The DNA starts replicating to which the nucleus is going to divide and they will form their cells inside the pollen grain. One is the vegetative cell, which is the larger cell. Larger larger cell with the irregular nucleus. It has an irregular nucleus. Here I will represent, this is the vegetative cell in which there will be presence of an irregular nucleus. Okay, the next, why it is bigger? Why this vegetative cell is bigger means due to the, because this vegetative cell has a plenty or a large amount of, it has a plenty reserve food material. What does it have? Why the size of the vegetative cell is bigger means it has a plenty or a large amount of reserve food material. Okay, due to which the size of the vegetative cell is larger. One more cell, what I said here, that is generative cell, which is smaller cells. Okay, and always the vegetative cell will lie in the center of the pollen grain, and this generative cell is the spindle shaped cell. How it is? It is spindle shaped like this. Spindle shaped cell, and it lies at the periphery of the pollen grain. Okay, it has a what we call it has a proper nucleus, and this cell is not a bigger cell, it is a smaller cell. Okay, so these two, this is the generative cell. Okay, see, if they ask, explain the structure of pollen grain or draw any label diagram of a pollen grain means you have to mention this diagram. Okay, in a very clear manner, you have to draw this diagram and you have to label these things. What will be the labeling means? First thing, you have to label the enzyme, enzyme, germ pore, then cytoplasm, plasma membrane, then two cells, that is the vegetative and the generative cell. Okay, so see here, enzyme, which is the outermost layer, harder layer, which will act as a protective layer, and it is highly resistant due to the presence of a chemical substance that it is known as the sporopollenin, which is highly resistant to heat, temperature, strong acids, strong bases. Okay, then inner to that, and in the vegetative cell, and the smaller cell is the generative cell. This vegetative cell will be the larger in size due to the presence of, or due to the presence of larger amount of the reserve food material. And except these, it has an irregular shaped nucleus, and always the vegetative cell will lie at the center of the pollen grain. Then next to that, one more cell is there, that is the generative cell, which is smaller cell and which lies at the periphery of the pollen grain. Okay, so this is about what? Pollen grain. And here this pollen grain, we can say it as the two-celled stage. What we can say? Two-celled stage pollen grain. In 60% of the flowering plants, that means the angiosperms, the pollen grain will shed at this two-celled stage. You can see the pollen grains, this is the pollen grain which are having the two cells. Okay, that's why we are calling it as the two-celled stage pollen grain. So, in 60% of angiosperms pollen grain sheds at pollen grain shed at two-celled stage. That means this celled stage. Okay, in 60%, that means in majority of flowering plants, the pollen grain will shed at the two-celled stage. Okay, why I am telling it, sir? In remaining 40% or in remaining species, what happens means, sir, the pollen grain are going to shed at remaining in remaining species of angiosperms. What happens means the pollen grain shed at three-celled stage. How the three cells are going to form here? I had explained only about the two cells. You came to know only about the two cells. Then what about they are telling three-celled stage? Okay, in remaining species, in 40% or remaining after 60% in majority, in some of these species, what happens means the pollen grains are going to shed, okay, at a three-celled stage. Here, whatever the generative cells will be there. For example, this is the pollen grain. Okay, here this is the vegetative cell and this is the generative cell. This generative cell divides. Okay, this generative cell, it will divide to form two cells. If it is going to divide means, this one generative cell will become the two generative cells. If these two generative cells are going to form means, how many cells it will become? 1, 2, 3. So this is like this pollen grain, we can call it as the three-celled stage pollen grain. Okay, so this is about the pollen grain. Then here, pollen grains are one of the important it is important structural, it is important gamete in the life cycle of angiosperms. Okay, so here the pollen grains which are present in the atmosphere, see here, from the flowers they are going to fly away through the wind. So it will be present not only on the flower but it will be present in the atmosphere. Okay, it is going to affect to the human beings. How means, it will enter into the nostrils or into the mouth. So if it enters into the nostril, it will enter into the lungs. Okay, if it is going to enter into the lungs, it can cause some allergic diseases. See here. Pollen grains enters into the lungs, into the nostrils and lungs. Okay, when it is going to enter into the nostrils and the lungs, it causes the allergic diseases. It causes allergic diseases and bronchitis diseases. Bronchitis diseases means diseases which is related with the lungs. Okay, see, some of the human beings or some of the people will be having a allergy with the flowers. Why that allergy is going to cause means, their pollen grains, it will be microscopic structure. It will be very small. You cannot see. So it will be present in the atmosphere that will enter into the nose. So they will start continuing wheezing or they will start sneezing. So like that, diseases are going to cause in whom means in the allergic person with the pollen grains. And they also cause some chronic respiratory diseases. Some dangerous. Chronic means some dangerous respiratory diseases means which is related to the nostrils and the lungs. It causes some chronic respiratory diseases such as, what are the diseases means such as asthma, then hay fever, bronchitis, etc. So all these diseases are related with the respiratory system. That means the with the lungs. Okay. So this is about what pollen grain. And one more thing, the pollen grain of Parthenium. It's a very important point. Pollen grains of Parthenium or carrot grass, which is also known as the carrot grass. So this pollen grain of specifically of this grass or of this plant causes the pollen allergy. It causes the pollen allergy. Which one? That is the Parthenium or carrot grass. So this Parthenium came to India while there is an exporting the wheat from other countries. Okay. Here, pollen grains of certain plants are highly nutritious. Not only they have disadvantages, except the pollination, this pollen grains also has some of the nutrient or nutritious value. What are the nutritious values? Let's see here. Pollen grains of certain plants has nutritious value. Okay, it is highly nutritious. Whatever the pollen grain will be there of some species of plant, it is highly nutritious as they are used for as they are used for food supplements and they are available in the market as an pollen tablet or pollen syrups. Okay, as they are available in the market as the pollen tablets or pollen syrups. See, this is about the uses of pollen grain. The next, viability of pollen grain. Pollen grain released from the flower at once till how many time or till how much period of time it will be live or viable. Viable means whether that pollen grain will have the ability to pollinate or not. What will be the time? Here in different plant species, the time period or the viability period, it will be varying. So let's see what is that viability of pollen grains. Okay. See here, in different species of plants, the viability will be different. So here, the viability of some cereals such as wheat and rice. The pollen grains of this wheat and rice, it will be viable for 30 minutes. Only for 30 minutes. Once, see for example, this is the wheat plant. Once a pollen grain has released from the wheat plant means it will be live. It can pollinate only under the 30 minutes. Then you can, this viability, it is for some cereals such as wheat and rice, and in some members of Rosaceae, Leguminosae, in some members of Rosaceae, family Rosaceae, Leguminosae, in your NEET exam, they will ask like these points. Okay, Rosaceae, Leguminosae, and Solanaceae. It will be viable for months. Viable for months. And one more thing, here you see, this pollen grains, say, one flower is going to produce a many number of pollen grains. When the anther gets mature, for example, this is the anther. When it gets mature, the wall layers are going to disrupt. At that time, the pollen grain, this anther is not going to release few number of pollen grains, but it is going to release million number of pollen grains. How many? Many number of pollen grains they are going to release. Okay. Among that one, only few pollen grains are going to pollinate the other flower. Okay. Few, only few. Then remaining pollen grain where it will go means the remaining pollen grain are going to wasted. Okay. It will be fly away or it is going to be wasted. And what happens means some of the scientists or researchers, what they will do means, as you had studied or as you had heard that male gametes, that sperms are going to, semen are going to store in the sperm bank. Like that only, here also the pollen grains are going to store. Pollen grains, it should not get wasted. Okay, that pollen grains are going to stored. How it is going to stored means same thing here also, stored in pollen banks. Okay, how it is going to stored? It is going to stored in the pollen banks. So in that pollen banks, they are going to store in liquid nitrogen. In what it is going to store? That is in the liquid nitrogen, where the temperature will be minus 196 degree Celsius. Okay, at this temperature, they are going to store the large number of pollen grains of different species. So if they stored in these liquid nitrogen at this temperature, the pollen grains will be viable for many years. They can use these pollen grains for many years. Okay, so this is about what? About the pollen grains. So next we will go for the female reproductive structure. Next, that is the female reproductive structure in angiosperms. Okay, so here, whatever the female reproductive structure in that first one, what are the things which are included here means that it is pistil, megasporangium. Okay, in male reproductive structure, you had studied about the microsporangium. Okay, but here it is megasporangium. Or else you can also call it as the ovule. Okay, and embryo sac. These are the things, or these are the structures which are involved in the female reproductive structure of angiosperms. What are that? Pistil, megasporangium or ovule, embryo sac. So first here, what is pistil? You will see here. Pistil, which is the gynoecium, or else gynoecium, which is also known as the pistil. Okay, gynoecium means what? That is the female reproductive part of the flower. What is gynoecium or pistil? The female reproductive part of a flower. A pistil is composed of one or more number of carpels. What does it consist of or composed of? Pistil is composed of one or more carpels. This is the unit of female reproductive structure. Okay, so here it will be, and this carpels, which is also known as the megasporophylls. Anther, as you had studied in the male reproductive part, that is about the anther. There the anther is known as the microsporophyll. Okay, like that only, same thing, the carpels are known as the megasporophyll. Okay, a pistil in different species or in different flower, whatever the pistil will be there, the pistil, in some of the pistil, there will be presence of one carpel. If there is only one carpel, then it is known as the monocarpellary. What it is known as? If in the pistil one carpel is there, then it is known as the monocarpellary. If two carpels are there means, then it is known as the bicarpellary. If it is three carpels means, that is tricarpellary. Then many means, if many carpels are there means, then it is known as the multicarpellary. More than three means, then you can call it as the multicarpellary. Okay, so this is about the different flowers or different pistils based on the number of what? Carpels. The next here, whatever multicarpellary or else you can also call it as the polycarpellary. Okay, multicarpellary or polycarpellary. The next here, each carpel or pistil has the three parts. What are that means? Before going to that, I want to say here the carpels, some carpels will be the free carpels like this. It is arranged freely. Okay, if it is, these are the free carpels. And in some of the flowers, the carpels will be the fused one. All the carpels are present in a fused form. So, if it is freely arranged, then it is known as the apocarpus. This type of arrangement of carpels where it is arranged freely, then it is known as the apocarpus. Okay, if it is arranged fused, this is the fused carpels. Then it is known as the syncarpus. Apocarpus, syncarpus, it is very important. It will be asked for 1 mark question. What do you mean by apocarpus? Where the carpels are freely arranged. Okay. And what do you mean by syncarpus means where the carpels are fused. They are arranged in a fused form. So that is known as the syncarpus. The next here, each carpel or gynoecium. See here, each carpel or gynoecium which has a pistil, it has the 3 main regions. What are the 3 main regions means? That is stigma, style, and one more part, that is the ovary. Okay, this is the structure of a pistil or a gynoecium or a female reproductive part. Here, the stigma, which is first I will tell you about the ovary. Ovary, which is the swollen part, which lies at the bottom or beneath the style. Bottom region of pistil. Style, which is an elongated tube-like structure, elongated slender structure also you can say, which is arising from just below the stigma. Stigma, which is a platform for the pollen grains for pollination. During pollination, what happens means the pollen grains comes and sits on this stigma. Okay, so it is a platform, it is a stage for what? For the pollen grains. Okay, this whatever the this stigma in different flowers, it will be differing in their structure. In some plants, the stigma will be knob-like, pointed, or it will be having a somewhat sticky surface. What does it have? It will be having a sticky surface. Then here, inside this ovary, there is a presence of an ovarian cavity. This cavity or this chamber, inside the ovary, there is an ovarian cavity. This ovarian cavity is known as the locule. What it is known as? It is known as the locule. You had already studied in first PU class. Okay. Then here inside this ovarian cavity there is an bridge of tissues. Inside this cavity there is an bridge of tissues. These of tissues is known as the placenta. There is a ridge of tissues that is known as the placenta located inside the ovarian cavity. Okay, see about the placenta, placentation you had already studied. So here, and next thing, just this placenta is giving an attachment between the ovary and the ovules. Here inside this, what we call inside this ovarian cavity or in the locules, there will be presence of an ovules. These are the ovules. What are these? These are the ovules. Here, the number of ovules, it will be varying in the different ovaries. This ovules, it may be one. In some species of flowers or plants, this ovules, it may be one. Okay, if one ovule is there, what are the examples are there means wheat, paddy, mango. Mango. In this species of the plant, the ovule number will be the 1. And the next, it will be many. Many means countless. In papaya, as you can see, in mango and all, only one seed will be there. Okay, and in papaya, you can see many number of seeds. That is papaya, watermelon, brinjal. In these specific plants, the ovules will be the many, and many, except many, in some of these species, it will be several thousand. Okay, thousand means that is in poppy plant. 1000 in number. What is that? That is the ovule that is in the poppy plant. Okay, and more than 1 million ovules are also there. In which plant means more than 1 million. In which plant means that is in the orchids. In which plants? More than 1 million orchids. 1000 means that is in the poppy plant. Many means papaya, watermelon, brinjal. Then only 1 means wheat, paddy, and mango. Okay. So this is about what? About the female reproductive part. So in that we had studied only about the pistil. Okay, pistil, it has the 3 regions, that is the stigma, style, ovary. Inside the ovary, there will be presence of a cavity that is known as the locule. Inside that locule, there will be presence of a ridge of tissues, that is the placenta, and inside that there will be presence of ovules. If one, in some of them it will be 1, in some of them it will be many, in some of the plant it will be 1000 in number, in rare, in some cases it will be more than 1 million. Okay, so this is about what? About the pistil. Next, that is about the megasporangium or ovule. This we will study in the next class. Okay, thank you.